take your place here at the panel. And yes, you've touched upon some things that we need to talk about, and we definitely will talk about it through the panel discussion. But before I invite my panelists up on stage, I'd like to acknowledge our partners for the evening, without whom evenings like these are really not possible. ETV News Network, enba 2015 and Newsnext 2016 is powered by ETV News Network, Khabar Hi Jeevan Hai. Associate partner, Sahara News Network. Co-partner, Governance Now. Business platform partner, Business World. Knowledge partner, Broadcast Audience Research Council, India. Live webcast partner, 24 Frames Digital. So the information that you are experiencing here, listening to and seeing is being live webcast on the Exchange for Media platform, and of course it's going to be carried across the various platforms that Exchange for Media has. Could we have the partner AV, please?
A vast and diverse country like India can be better understood in news and happenings only in the ETV way. The only news network in the country with more than 10 channels and with 2,000 reporters spread out from the foothills of the Himalayas in Jammu and Kashmir to the backwaters of Kerala and from the far-off corners of Northeast to Dalal Street in Mumbai. Covering every news, big or small, that matters to you. Speed and credibility have been our DNA. All this while keeping you at the center of every news story that's breaking in the country. We are the voice of people. We are ETV News Network. Khabar Hi Jeevan Hai.
And without much further ado, let me invite on stage our moderator for the session, Mr. Madhavan Narayanan, backed by a loud round of applause. Senior editor, Hindustan Times, a writer, content strategist, journalist, columnist, commentator and storyteller who has covered everything from economic reform, technology, politics, and the Kargil War to Bollywood and cricket in a long and distinguished journalistic career. Thank you so much, Madhavan, for taking the time for doing this for us. Mr. Avinash Pandey, Chief Revenue Officer, ANN, COO, ABP News, who has a rich experience in media sales spanning more than 16 years. And Avinash is a postgraduate in modern history from Delhi University. Thank you so much, Avinash, for joining this panel. An eminent writer and political analyst, Dr. Wael Awad. Thank you so much for taking the time, Mr. Awad, for being here with us. You've been a war reporter who has covered Sri Lanka, Kashmir, Afghanistan, West Asia, and the Gulf region. Worked as Bureau Chief of Middle East Broadcasting Center, London, MBC FM Radio, Kuwait, Amman, and Damascus Radio. And prior to this, he ran a special program called Dateline South Asia in Arabic. Thank you so much for taking the time for joining this particular panel. May I next invite on stage Mr. Rohit Gandhi, Editor-in-Chief, English News and Current Affairs, Zee Media Corporation Limited. A documentary filmmaker, journalist, news manager with over 20 years of experience across 40 countries and an ability to meet the pressing needs of global media companies in war zones and countries affected by crisis and natural disasters. Thank you so much, Mr. Gandhi, for joining us on this panel. And of course, last but not the least, Mr. Saurabh Shukla, Editor-in-Chief, News Mobile Asia, who's also been on the jury for enba 2015. And one of the unique journalists who's had an opportunity to work with TV, print, and the digital media industry. Thank you all so much. Madhavan, all yours. We have exactly 45 minutes from now, and I would definitely want you to include the audience in your conversation.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And it's nice to see a packed audience, and I'm not going to waste much time since we are already a little late on the track. But the panelists have been introduced. It's a very nice, diverse panel, and I think the timing is just right. But having done journalism for 3 decades, I've now done nearly 10 years in Hindustan Times. Earlier I was 12 years in Reuters, so I've been part of and earlier in the Times of India group, so I've been part of both the international and national media, domestic media, so to speak. So I dare say I have an angle on this issue. But before we come to the here and now, a bit of history might help. I was a political science student, apart from economics, and I remember a hot topic in the 70s and early 80s used to be something called the New International Economic Order. So information order and economic order both used to be part of the conversations. So we used to be looked down upon, so to speak, by the Western media, anybody from other countries, because there was a general view that there were brand names like BBC, which were considered to be unbiased. Well, I still am a commentator on BBC occasionally, so I would still think highly of BBC, but it took a while for people to realize, based on conversations, that there are other perspectives to news. So, but no one really could walk the talk in those days. Then dramatic changes have happened now. One, you have the emergence of the BRICS economies, and what used to be G8 has now become G20, showing that the world is becoming more and more multilateral in economic terms, and there is a parallel information and news angle to the whole thing. The other thing, so excellently articulated by Anna Belkina here from Russia Today, was about how new voices are needed and new ideas are needed. And the third and the most important thing, perhaps, is we also have an explosion of affordable technology, digital technology, and internet, which is making it much more possible to walk the talk on broadcast without borders, which is what we are discussing today. So that gives us a very good context on where we are discussing the issues today. But having said that, this broadcast without borders is a topic that is loaded with potential for controversy, as if we do not have enough trouble judging business interests with ideas of unbiased coverage in journalism. We have the added challenge of foreign policy tangles coming into journalism thanks to broadcast in the international media. So that makes it even more challenging, and as they say, truth depends on which side of Jerusalem you are, and now you could make it anything. You could make it the Suez Canal, you could make it the equator, whatever. So that's the context in which we are discussing. So before I bring on the panelists, let me tell you that we have a hashtag going. This is the age of Twitter, which is the ultimate Tower of Babel where you can broadcast anything. So the hashtag for today is enba2015. Feel free to tweet. My own handle is Madversity. I don't know if the other speakers may want to spell out their handles if they want to be quoted. Or you have hashtag @E4M events, which is organizing this, so you can just tag them and they'll probably lob it across to a wider audience. Thanks. Now let me begin. I think Anna has just spoken, so let me begin with talking to Dr. Awad, I have known for 25 years, because I expect him today to define the problem, because he is a living, breathing example of the problem we are trying to discuss today. He's from Syria, which is torn, Russia's bombing Syria. The US has been bombing Syria, or the Turkish planes have been bombing Syria. Syria is having its own issues to cope with for the current government under President Assad. We don't know what the truth is. You have the BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, God knows how many channels, and then Russian Today. As I was saying to Anna, the only interview with President Assad I've really seen is on Russia Today. So this gives you an idea of how complicated the situation can be. So let me ask Dr. Awad, as a Syrian, what do you think of the international channels covering the Syrian problem, and how do you use that to define the challenges before the broadcast media today?
Thank you for asking me these important questions, because yes, I am from a region where very selectively the news has been dispatched, because like a doctor says, if I give you the line of treatment, you will know, I'll know the line of recovery. So that is the point where they wanted to just give you the information where you build up an opinion, that this is what they want you to make. So the public opinion is manufactured rather than being really based on a reality on the ground. I wouldn't say that what's happening in my country, I think prior to 2011, most of my friends in India would find it difficult to locate Syria on the map. Not for the reason that it's very far, it's a small country, but also because it was not much of the news. I mean, 2008, Syria was the second largest country in the world to receiving refugees. And now Syria is 2015 number one in the world of sending out refugees. So the irony of the matter explained to you why now Syria. It's a geopolitically located. It's very important. There's a discovery of oil and gas in the region, and that's why the hot cake is there. So if you have orange, like in Cyprus, they wouldn't have gone for the division of the two, Cyprus into Greek or Turkey, as the Prime Minister of Cyprus said that. But because they discovered the oil, they could go to Kuwait, they could go to Iraq, they could go to Syria, and that's how it is. So when you close the voice of the Syrian people on TV, you ban our channel on live, on satellite, and then you close the missions, most of the European country, I'm sure there's no other people opinion. So we have to pay the price, the Syrian blood, half of the population internally and externally displaced, because the war is imposed on us.
Let me be specific, since we're not too much on time. What is your opinion of the coverage of Syria by channels like like CNN or BBC or Al Jazeera? What is the gap that you find there?
No, you see, there is a checkbook diplomacy now. There's a paid news. I can challenge anybody. When you're carrying a story of two boys get killed in the street of Syria, they have shown the funeral everywhere in the world. Everybody saw these shots. And then if you continue watch YouTube, you will see that these two boys walking alive. But for you on channels like BBC, CNN, Reuters, Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya run the story like this, I feel, being a Syrian, that I have been cheated. I know there are atrocities, there are people getting killed in the street, but to see such kind of reporting, the first victim of the war in Syria is the truth. You do not have anybody giving you the real truth, neither the government versions of this truth, nor the opposition, nor the international community. So the international media have really fell in the trap of reporting what they have got, because the international media like CNN, BBC would love to show the world from the eyes of the Arab. So they will say courtesy Al Jazeera, courtesy Al Arabiya, so to prevent being accused of what was giving wrong information. Or you're bringing from the Lebanese civil war trucks at the beginning of the war, and then you say, well, this is in Syria happening. Or you make a green square of Libya in Tripoli, in Doha, and you say this is the Tripoli in Libya. So there was a manufacturing news factories where the Czech diplomacy have worked well, because even Modrok himself had made his company in 2009. He was a part of the company was discovering oil in the Golan. So obviously, if you discover under the Syrian Golan occupied by Israel, you will never have the pictures of giving you the right picture what's going on the ground.